Dialga presents Noivern GX. First, let's talk about some previous Noivern cards. There's the Noivern Hollow and Furious Fist. It had 100 HP, it's weak to Fairy, and had a 1 retreat cost. Remember that. It had an ability Echolocation where if any damage is done to this Pokemon by attacks, flip a coin, and if heads, prevent that damage. This means that 50% of the time you will take no damage from your opponent no matter how much damage they did to you. Its attack was Boom Burst, which did 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, kind of like Trevenant Break. There was also a Noivern in the XY Starter Kit, and you probably didn't even know the XY Starter Kit existed until this video, but it exists, trust me. It has the highest HP of all the Stage 1 Noiverns at 110 HP. It is weak to Fairy and had a retreat cost of 1. Remember, the retreat cost is going to matter in the future. Its first attack, Second Bite, did 20 damage plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. This is basically doubling the damage on your opponent's active Pokemon and adding 20 to the doubled amount. This is the same as Glaceon's first attack, which is also named Second Bite. Its second attack is Sonic Bazooka, where it does 60 damage, and if heads it did 30 more damage and your opponent's active Pokemon was confused. It wasn't really that good of an attack, and that's why Noivern didn't see that much play. And in Breakthrough, my favorite set, there was another Noivern. It also had 100 HP, and it had a retreat cost of 1, like the other Noiverns. It's also weak to Fairy, and in Breakthrough there was also Noivern Break. The idea was that you use Noivern's tuning attack to get the same amount of cards in your hand as your opponent's hand, and then you'll do 80 more damage with Synchro Super. But it wasn't really that consistent because your opponent could just use a Professor Sycamore on their turn, so you're better off using Air Slash. That's why these two cards didn't really see that much play. But fun fact, since Noivern Break was in Breakthrough, which was the first set to include breaks in it, some of the Noivern Breaks had a misprint where the Pokemon's back of it was actually flipped upside down. It's worth considerably more than the normal Noivern GX. I mean Noivern Break. I'm sorry. Speaking of Noivern GX, well, we arrived at the main part of this video. Noivern GX. Its basic stats are that it's a Dragon type and is a Stage 1 GX. It's mostly likely going to be evolving from this Noibat because the Noibat from Breakthrough may rotate after Worlds 2017. And Noibat has an attack called Agility, which does 10 damage and flip aheads prevent all effects of attacks, including damage onto this Pokemon during your opponent's next turn, which is pretty good, and it's kind of like Noivern from Furious Fist ability. Its HP is 200, which is on par with the Stage 1 GX like Sylveon GX. But it's also Fairy weak, so something like Sylveon GX with Fairy Wind can one-hit KO Noivern GX. But Noivern GX also has no resistance, which is kind of common, but we'd rather have a resistance. And it has no retreat cost. Remember how I told you to remember the other Noivern's retreat cost? Well, this retreat cost is 0, which is really good. That means you could just put this in the deck if you just want a free retreater. The attacks. First attack for Dark and a Colorless Energy is Distortion. It does 50 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, your opponent can't play any item cards from their hand. And the second attack, which is for a Psychic, Dark, and a Colorless Energy, is Loud Sonic. It does 120 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, your opponent can't play any special energy cards from their hand. And the GX attack for also Psychic, Dark, and a Colorless is Explosive Soundwave GX. This attack does 50 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, and don't apply weakness and resistance for bench Pokemon. Not that it really matters because nothing is weak to Dragon types. Only the old dragons are weak to dragons, but right now nothing is weak to dragon. This is really good because the first attack is a lot like Seismitoad EX's Quaking Punch, which is really infamous back in the day. But Noivern's attack is for Dark and a Colorless instead of a double Colorless energy, but it does 50 damage instead of 30 damage, which is good because in the Pokemon TCG, more damage is almost always good. And the second attack is like Giratina's Chaos Wheel, but it's only one aspect of the 3 aspects of the disruption that Chaos Wheel offers. It only blocks special energy and not Pokemon tools and stadium cards. But most of the times you want to be blocking only special energy because Pokemon tools you could replace with Field Blower. And stadium cards you could replace with your own stadium. So those are easy to get rid of, but special energy is hard to block. And another fun fact was that when I was getting back into Pokemon after a long time, I went on Pokemon.com and they were featuring a Seismitoad and Giratina deck. And now, since both of the main attacks of these Pokemon are now infused into one Noivern GX, you can only imagine how powerful this Noivern GX is going to be. Increase stats. To increase the stats of Noivern GX, you could use Muscle Dumbbells, which gives plus 40 HP to all stage 1s. And this Noivern GX is a stage 1, so you could use Muscle Dumbbells to bring this guy's HP to 240, which is on par with something like the Decidueye GX. You could also use Professor Kukui to bump up the damage output by 20. So the first attack will do 70 damage and the second attack will do 140 damage. You could also use Choice Band to bump up the attacks by 30 to EXs and GXs. So the first attack will be doing 80 and the second attack will be doing 150. And if you use both a Kukui and a Choice Band, then the first attack will be doing 100 and the second attack will be doing 170, which is enough to KO some EX Pokemons like your Veltal. But keep in mind, you can only have one tool on a Pokemon at a time, so you could either use Muscle Dumbbells or you could use Choice Band, but you can't use both at the same time. But since Field Blower is around, Choice Band may be better because it gives you immediate effects and your opponent can just Field Blower away your Muscle Dumbbells before they attack. This is the representation of what Field Blower does. It blows away all your tools. Some partners may include a Darkrai deck, because since double Dragon Energy may be rotating after Worlds 2017, and the first attack requires a dark and a colorless. A deck that runs dark energy is Darkrai. So you could use Noivern in a Darkrai deck, and it's also pretty good because if they get rid of your Altar of the Moon and they escape rope you, you have a Noivern GX and that has free retreat, so that will complement pretty well with the Darkrai deck. Impact on the metagame. Now there is even more of an incentive not to play item cards and to use more supporters because Garbodor wrecks you if you use item cards, and Noivern doesn't even let you use item cards in the first place. So right now, items are receiving a lot of hate. Some other information include that Double Dragon Energy is most likely going to be rotating after Worlds 2017. Heck, get it? It's rotating! Ha ha ha. Please laugh. And if you did laugh, put it in the comment section down below. That'll be pretty cool. You could still use Double Dragon Energy in the expanded format after that, but the expanded format is more scary and tough, and Noivern GX may not be able to make it. Some other forms of the card include the normal art, there's the full art, which looks really cool, and the hyper rare, or rainbow rare, which looks even cooler. These cards are going to will probably cost a lot, and even the basic Noivern GX might cost a lot. So this deck may not be as budget friendly, but if you could afford it, this deck is probably going to be really good. Rating. I think this Noivern GX card will definitely see play, and I'll give it 9 out of 10 stars. My speculated price for this Noivern GX will be $8 or more, because this card is really good, and like Drampa is around $8 and Drampa is pretty good, so I think this card will be at least $8. Thanks for watching my video, and please remember to subscribe and to like and to comment down below with any tips, because this is my first video and I would really like to see some constructive criticism down below in the comment section. And also remember to keep having fun with the Pokemon TCG and pray with me for a playable Dialga or Magnezone card in the near future. Okay, see ya in the next one.